Well, I'm not going to lie, folks. This one kind of left a foul taste in my mouth. This is Howard the Duck. Yeah, Howard the Duck was released in 1986. This is brought to you by George Lucas. From the guy that brought you Star Wars, and Raiders of the Lost Ark, and Willow, American Graffiti. And apparently while George Lucas was making American Graffiti, he had mentioned that he would love to do a movie adaptation of Howard the Duck, because he was reading the comic and he was entertained by it. So eventually, in 1986, once he had the millions in the bank from the whole Star Wars phenomenon, I guess he decided to give it a shot. Now, when I say give it a shot, he just basically paid for it and got people to make a Howard the Duck live-action adaptation. Now, originally, the writers, directors of this film wanted to make it as a full-length animated feature, which I think would have been at least maybe closer to a good movie. No, they gave us this. Animatronic, anthropomorphic duck suit, little person in a duck suit. The effects, I guess, aren't bad, but Howard the Duck looks nothing like he looks in the comic books. And I guess because in the comic books he kind of looks a little more like Donald Duck. So my question is, with the way that this movie turned out, why did you even bother with this at all? First of all, it's totally different from the Howard the Duck comic books, or at least I find it to be. Howard the Duck has always been sort of a more adult-oriented comic book. He has a attractive, buxom girlfriend, human girlfriend that is. He's always fighting weird monsters, and it gets pretty political. Like, Howard runs for president at one point, and in the actual presidential election of 1976, people actually wrote in Howard the Duck or as their vote for president. I mean, I guess, because it's all a joke. It's all absurd, and it's not supposed to make a whole lot of sense. He's a sarcastic character. He's got some issues, and he's got to deal with being a stranger in a strange land. But the comic actually went into some parody, some social commentary. They don't even come close to that in this movie. Not sure if maybe this movie was made for kids or for adults that were fans of the comic. But it seems like they try to go for the kids angle in some spots. I could see them cranking out a whole bunch of Howard the Duck toys and dolls and whatever. But of course the movie flopped, so there was no chance to even get on that. There might be some Howard merchandise out there from the movie. Probably trading cards or something like that. Yeah, there's lots of silly stuff in there for the kids. Howard flopping around and making duck jokes. So many fucking duck jokes. It's like, guess they thought it was gonna quack me up. Here's the story. Howard the Duck is like he's from Duck World, another planet, another dimension. And Duck World is very much like Earth. But instead of humans, this place is populated by, you guessed it, ducks. He comes from the city of Duckburg. In his apartment, he has a poster for Breeders of the Lost Stork. Duck pun number 1. He checks his answering machine. There's duck jokes on his answering machine. Hey, this is so-and-so duck speaking to other duck and using a duck pun in there or whatever. And then he turns on the TV and all kinds of commercials are coming up and there's duck jokes in the commercials. And, they change the titles of things so that it's like quack this or duck this or feather, bird, wing, egg, these kinds of things. And it just gets so tedious, and it doesn't stop for the entire movie. Just duck joke after duck joke after duck joke. Howard gets sucked away from his world and brought to our world and lands in Cleveland. There's points where he tries to figure out how he got there. There's parts where he tries to go back. There's a part where he apparently falls in love. There is also a part where he fights an evil villain, interdimensional alien overlord at the end, and you get to see him fly around in a plane. You get to see him get in bar fights and use quack fu. It's so dumb. It's so fucking dumb. Okay, I was never a huge Howard the Duck fan of the comic book, but if I was, I would have burned every issue of that comic book when this movie came out, because this is terrible. It doesn't know where it's supposed to be. Like, remember I was saying it kind of might be for kids? Well, then why is there so many like sex jokes and stuff in this movie? There's like a whole scene where Howard and Beverly kind of starting to get it on, and it's really uncomfortable and weird. And there's a point where she opens his wallet and he's got a little duck-sized condom in there. At the very beginning of the movie, probably like 2 minutes in, you get to see duck boobs. That's right, not once, but twice. There's, Howard is reading Play Duck magazine sitting in his easy chair just before he gets zapped to Earth. And he unfolds the centerfold and there's a naked anthropomorphic duck lady with boobs. Ducks don't need boobs. It was weird, and I felt dirty looking at this duck, these dirty ducks. And then, as Howard's getting transported to Earth, he's getting, like, his armchair, like, flies through the wall of his apartment and through several other apartments. And he goes through this one other tenant's bathroom. And there's a lady duck in the tub drinking wine and, having a bath. And you can see her duck boobs very clearly. And it's like, why is that in there? Like, is this supposed to make us, as adults, is it supposed to make us laugh? Like, to say, oh, here you go, adults, here's your nudity, haha. I don't know, it looked weird, it makes no sense, and it's not funny. And that's basically the whole movie right there. It looks weird, it makes no sense, and it's not funny. So I suppose I should tell you who's actually in this movie. I'm guessing there's probably several little people played the role of Howard in the duck suit. Leah Thompson, of course, plays Beverly Switzer, Howard's female companion. Then you get Tim Robbins in here. I think this was like Tim Robbins' first big budget movie. And he's pretty obnoxious in here. Like, I think it's the role he was given and the lines he was given that he just comes off as a complete idiot in this movie. And his name is like Phil, the lab assistant or whatever, and they call him Philzy. And he's just the straight man to Howard's jokes, or vice versa, or something. I don't know. You don't hear Tim Robbins talk about this one too much, I'm sure. Oh, and then speaking about things we don't talk about, what about Jeffrey Jones as the main antagonist in this movie? Jeffrey Jones, if you're not familiar, was actually convicted in, I think, 2003 for, like, child pornography charges. I don't know the specifics of that. And I guess that kind of halted his career pretty much for good. I mean, you might remember this guy from Ferris Bueller's Day Off or Beetlejuice. And then he was in Howard the Duck. All those movies kind of came around the same within a few years of each other. But yeah, nobody likes to talk about this guy anymore. But I gotta say, his performance in the movie, oh my god, it's kind of headache-inducing in some points. Like, I get it, and I get where they're going for, and I get that this whole movie, they're trying to be ridiculous. They're trying to be funny. And it's just not funny. It's, oh my god, like, they have one joke in the whole movie, and they just beat it to death. It's, he's a duck, but he acts like a human, but he's a duck. He's from outer space, but he's a duck. I mean, there's action scenes, there's big budget special effects in here. I mean, I gotta say, Howard the Duck suit, or the mask, or the animatronic head, or whatever, it looks fairly okay. It doesn't look anything like what I would expect Howard the Duck to look like, but it's passable, I guess. But it's just weird looking and off-putting, and yeah, I don't know. But it looks expensive, and it looks, dare I say, almost realistic in some points. And other special effects are pretty good, like the optical effects, like the, there's some Ghostbuster style, like laser magic beam effects in there, some explosions, lots of pyrotechnics, I guess. There's some stop motion in there when the enemy monster or whatever, attacks Howard and his friends at the end of the movie. And that stop motion looks pretty good. It's done by Phil Tippett, guy that worked on, Empire Strikes Back and probably other Star Wars and those kinds of movies. And the sets, I gotta say, they probably put a whole bunch of money into making all these custom props and all that stuff for Duck World. All that stuff that makes it, first of all, to scale. Also, everything's got to have a frickin' duck joke on it. This is all in an effort to make us laugh and go, oh, that duck sure is funny. No, this duck is foul. He did not quack me up. In fact, I'd say Howard the Duck laid an egg. Yeah, I was not impressed with this. I know that this movie flopped hard at the box office. There are people out there that say they like this film, and good for you, man. This was not for me. Oh, it's so long too. It takes so long to go by. I mean, it's full of exciting action scenes, car chases, and a plane chase, but meanwhile these chases and the stunts and all that stuff, which are actually okay, are just overshadowed by all the fucking stupid duck jokes. And it really did feel like a big waste of time. I had seen this in the theater back in 1986, and I remember leaving the theater going, what the fuck did I just see? It was so weird. It was so not what anybody was expecting. There's no worse movies than bad comedy movies. Movies that are supposed to make you laugh and just gotta roll your eyes at some of these movies, man. Since it is kind of a failed movie, and I'm not the only one to ever point that out, so don't be calling me a grumpy old hack, I gotta give Howard the Duck 1986 an F. I mean, I guess I could give it a slightly better grade for, effort, because there's a lot of money poured into here, but it's just put in the wrong places. Yeah, okay, the special effects are kind of cool, but, that's it. That's all you got going for this movie. No, I didn't like watching this at all. Howard the Duck gets an F. F for foul. And fuck you, Howard the Duck. I don't know, I always thought ducks were funny, but this version of Howard the Duck, man, this gives ducks a bad name. Anyway, until the next time, have a good one, everybody.